Great. Welcome, everybody. Tonight we have Shane Powers, President and CEO, Todd Pousley, Director of Community Development, and Gerard Hetman, Community Development Specialist from NeighborWorks. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to first start by thanking the council for having us this evening. It's a real honor to be able to come and share a little bit about the work that we're doing with NeighborWorks here in the city of Scranton. For those of you I've had the opportunity to meet here this evening, just a little background. I joined NeighborWorks about 3 years ago. I joined originally as the Chief Operating Officer, working directly with this great team and with Jesse Ergot. I know Jesse has a long-time role as a leader in community work here in the region. And it was a real honor to be able to work side by side with Jesse to really learn about the important work that NeighborWorks does in the community. So over the past year, as Jesse has transitioned to his new position and I assumed responsibilities, you know, it was an opportunity for really to get to know the community on a different level and to really get out there to understand what the needs of the city of Scranton were, as well as kind of the surrounding region. And so I'm very excited to be here tonight to talk a little bit about some of the great partnerships that have emerged with the city, some that are longstanding, that we have had a very long history of working in close proximity with the city through tremendous financial support, as well as advocacy and support from this group, from the administration, and from the community as a whole. And so, but there's also newer programs, you know, so when we were talking in preparation for tonight, it was exciting to see how that has grown and continued to evolve over the past several years. And so tonight we want to share certainly the work of the tremendous progress that Gerard and Todd have led through our community development work, especially through Beautiful Blocks, but we also want to talk about other programs like the First-Time Homebuyer Program and the success that we have seen with that program administration as well. So what we have here on the slide shows just kind of a snapshot of some of the services that we're providing in the community. So for those of you who may be, you know, watching at home or maybe less familiar with NeighborWorks, certainly the role that we play in the community as a HUD-certified housing counseling agency is kind of at the you know, meat and potatoes of who we are as an organization, really providing housing counseling to residents in the community who are looking to understand the process of home ownership and really be a good consumer when they purchase a home. And then ultimately, you know, for those individuals who may unfortunately be facing foreclosure, we are also an agency that can work in partnership with residents to ideally be able to mitigate that process and keep people in their homes. You can also see that our work has grown to include aging in place services. So for us, that's work with our older adult residents in the community, those individuals who are existing homeowners, working to help them stay in their homes safely and with dignity. So we've been fortunate to be able to start that work with safety modifications and accessibility, such as ramps, but that's also grown to include whole home repairs. And that has allowed us over the past year to take on projects such as roof replacements, heating system replacements for older adult residents. Certainly not the last, but the program that we are here to talk about in detail this evening is our comprehensive community development work, and that's what we refer to as place-based work. That's the work that we're doing out in the neighborhoods, out in the community, working alongside residents to really understand the resident and business owner needs for the communities in which they live, and helping them realize the assets that the community has, and working alongside them to really figure out ways in which we can highlight those assets and identify where they feel that there may be things that would enhance the viability and the vitality of the community. So that's just a little bit about who we are as an organization. Again, we have been here in Scranton doing similar types of work for over 40 years. So tonight we want to talk a little bit about some of our current partnerships. So you can see here that there are a number of ways in which we have been fortunate to partner with the city of Scranton. The Beautiful Blocks program is going to be a big focus of our sharing this evening, so we're looking forward to that. Yes.
As you go through each of these, could you just, the city of Scranton provides funding to NeighborWorks I know $100,000 this year to the Beautiful Blocks program, but as you go through these, could you just let us know what funding the city is providing so that people at home know how much money the city is putting towards
Absolutely.
these? So Beautiful Blocks is $100,000 this year.
Yes, sir.
Correct. And as we get into the details of Beautiful Blocks, we're going to talk about how that money has been leveraged as well, that support, as well as the way that that program works through matching dollars. So we'll talk a little bit more as we're going through with that. The Neighborhood Leaders Forum is a partnership with the City of Scranton as well as United Neighborhood Centers, and Gerard's going to talk a little bit more about that as well. The West Scranton Neighborhood Plan really has been the collaborative process that we've embarked on with residents and business owners in West Side to look at how we can continue to create a safe, vibrant neighborhood for the residents of West Scranton. And that takes into consideration a number of existing assets, things like Allen Park, Cloverfield. Todd's going to talk a little bit more about that. But it looks at streetscape, it looks at walkability, it looks at how do we also can ensure that residents have opportunities for continued engagement in the community, and we'll talk more about that one. ARPA facade program, so we received funding through ARPA, and again, we're going to talk about that. We'll get into the dollar specifics of each of these as we go through this evening for sure. And the facade program allowed us to do commercial facade work across both North Scranton as well as West Scranton footprints. That was also a collaborative process that also engaged United Neighborhood Centers as well as Scranton Tomorrow, each of us focusing on a slightly different footprint across the city to ensure that we could leverage and maximize the impact across the region. And then last but not least is the City of Scranton Homebuyer Program. That was funded both through home and through ARPA funding, and when we get to that slide, I have some specifics that you can see how those dollars have been specifically grown over the last several years.
Good evening, Council. I'm Gerard Hetman, Community Development Specialist here at NeighborWorks, Northeastern Pennsylvania. Been on board here just over 5 years with the agency, and it's been my privilege since I joined the team to be the lead staff person for our Beautiful Blocks program in Scranton, originating in 2019, and also spreading later to Carbondale and Pittston in subsequent years. But in Scranton, now entering our 7th program cycle in the city of Scranton this year, applications now open for the Beautiful Blocks program. So to go through with a brief overview, the heart of the program really is that Beautiful Blocks is a matching grant program that helps residents to complete exterior improvements to their homes. We provide up to $1,000 in matching grant funding for most projects for exterior improvements, again, to participating residents' homes. That matching component is key because we provide grant funding, but we also say to the residents that this is a partnership. So in order to receive the grant funding, the residents also have to contribute funds towards their project, towards the total cost. So for most residents, that amounts to a dollar for dollar matching amount, meaning if they want to qualify for the full $1,000 grant, they would have to contribute an additional $1,000 or more towards the cost of their project. We do change that a little bit for households that fall below 80% of the area median income threshold. In that case, we reduce the matching amount to 20% of the grant. So in order to get the $1,000 grant in that case, the residents would contribute anywhere from $200 upwards. So they could do a project for $1,200, $1,500, $1,800, and still receive that full $1,000, but the matching amount is a little bit reduced. So we do see that for a portion of projects each year. It does help lower-income households, oftentimes senior citizens, many of whom are a single-person household, to afford a home improvement project that they want to do, but not have to meet the full amount of the matching amount, and it's always appreciated by those folks. We did have last year, for the first time, and this was something that Dr. Rothchild had brought to our attention and encouraged us to do and work with, was an expanded grant for sidewalk improvements. And we've got some great before and after photos on deck for you here from completed projects in this vein. But we provide now for the second year in a row an expanded grant amount for houses completing sidewalk replacements. That was an item I think that City Council, particularly again Dr. Rothchild and OECD officials, had wanted to prioritize here going forward, improving not just aesthetics, but walkability, safety, all the good things that go into your property when you put new sidewalks in. So the cycle we just completed in 2024, we actually provided a total of $4,000 in matching funds to residents to help them complete sidewalk replacements. In that case, they had to provide the first $1,000 as their match, and then we would provide up to an additional $4,000 to help them complete the sidewalk project. We saw some great results with that that you'll see here on the next slide. A lot of good sidewalk projects across the city were completed. We did reduce that this year because expending that amount of funding used up a good chunk of our available funds. And if we were to continue offering the $4,000 for sidewalks, that would limit the number of projects that we could complete overall across the city. So we still wanted to offer the sidewalk incentive, but be able to do a strong number of projects to continue the impact across city neighborhoods. So that's where we came up with this year the $2,000 maximum. In effect, we're doubling the normal grant award. So it's $1,000 maximum for all other qualifying projects, but it's $2,000 for sidewalk projects. So we still think it's a strong incentive, a big help certainly, but we're just trying to make this affordable for us to be able to have a maximum impact in terms of number of projects with our budget. We do have a,
Does that include curbs?
I'm sorry, sir.
Does that include, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, does that include curbs?
It does, yes. And we did see some curb projects, and I think we have a good one here in the before and after. Yes, sir. So it is a competitive application process. If we can fund all of the applicant projects that come into us, we will do that. Some years we've had enough funding to cover everything, but some years we get more applications than we can fund. So we do have a scoring process. We do utilize a selection committee consisting of community members. We try to find some past participants, and we also try to have city representation to do that and select, the projects that we believe will make the greatest impact. We also we encourage repeat applications, but if we get a lot of repeat applicants, we also don't want that to crowd out returning, or new, I should say, we don't want returning applicants to crowd out new applicants. So we try to find that mix of continuing to encourage repeat participation, but also being able to welcome new residents and particularly new neighborhoods if they apply into the program. We do have community building programming, which I'll cover here a little bit later. We do find different ways to engage Beautiful Blocks participants in additional activities that help make our neighborhoods better. And again, our applications are now open, live on our website, nwnepa.org, and we've got a link right there on the homepage. And the deadline for what we call pre-applications is March 28th. So residents have until that date to gather at least 5 participating properties, maximum of 20, but a minimum of 5, within a relatively close area in their neighborhood, about 1 to 2 blocks, and apply with them to the program. So this year, we had a tremendous impact across the city. Again, encouraged and supported and really made feasible through City Council support. Again, thank you particularly, Dr. Rothchild, for your advocacy for the program, and to all of City Council for supporting us over the last several council budget cycles with funding. We greatly appreciate the support. Couldn't do it without that key funding piece in the program. So this year, we had 20 block groups participate. Great distribution throughout the city. We saw some applicants from neighborhoods we've seen before. West Scranton, Green Ridge, the Hill section have always been strong in Beautiful Blocks participation. But we also saw some really great new groups in both North Scranton and South Scranton that we were really excited about. And being able to break into those neighborhoods in a big way this year was super exciting. So we're hoping to see more next year. We saw a total of 127 projects completed this year. That's the most we've ever done in the city by far. Normally in the past, we've averaged around 80 to 85 completed a year, so this was great to be able to do more. We awarded over $323,000 in grant funding, and again, the sidewalk projects really brought that number up because we saw a lot of sidewalks completed with that maximum grant. And again, the matching amount this year is still strong. It's a little bit less than the total awards because the awards were so great for the sidewalks. Normally, there's a greater number of matching amounts because of matching funding because we normally do the $1,000 standard award. But awarding so much sidewalk funding this year, that's where the matching amounts looks a little bit less.
I have a quick question. So when you pre-apply, do you have to have an estimate, say a sidewalk estimate, Because, they could be, with curbs, curbs cost as much as sidewalks
Sure.
sometimes. So do they have to provide an actual estimate or just say, oh, I'm looking to spend?
On the pre-application, we ask for a basic idea of what the resident wants to do. So if they want to do curbs, all they have to do is write curbs on that pre-application.
And you figure the math somewhat, or
Well, we do ask them to provide an estimate later in the process. If they can't obtain one, we still allow them to apply, but we do encourage that for the residents' benefit, because we don't want them to get sticker shock if they're accepted and they do the project. But initially, we just asked for a basic idea, and then we asked them to provide an estimate a little bit later if they can get one. So.
And then, Mr. Hetman, another quick question. So I see the $323,000 in grants, $296,000 in matching funds. What's NeighborWorks' total budget for a year? Do you happen to know the total budget for?
Our organizational budget?
Yeah.
I believe it's about $2 million, would it be, Shane? Operating budget?
So the total operating budget is actually closer to $5 million, and that's across all of the different program areas that we're participating in. Of that $323,000 that it shows that's through grant funding, in addition to the funding that we're receiving through the city of Scranton, we're also heavily utilizing the Neighborhood Assistance Program through DCED. So we have had tremendous success with that and working with a lot of local partners, particularly banks and businesses that have contributed through the Neighborhood Assistance Program. That has been instrumental as we have continued to expand the Beautiful Blocks program into other communities.
And that matrix, that funding mix gives us a strong operating base because we don't want to rely completely on one funding source, of course. So the city's partnership with us and the funding support that council has authorized is a key piece, but it's certainly not the only piece. So when we come to you to request that and thank you for that, please know that we're not just relying on that. We do go out and seek other funding, particularly, again, through the Neighborhood Assistance Program, and numerous local business entities also offer their support to us. So it's a strong mix of funds that comes from a number of different sources, and we're able to do maximum work with that. So the before and after you see here, so this is a sidewalk project. This was a new group on Main Avenue, very close to Orm Street. So that was, again, bad sidewalk before, much better, safer, better looking sidewalk now with that particular one. The next one, this was on Dartmouth Street and West Side. So this resident did, front porch rehabilitation. There's a new door there, but also you see the kind of the clapboard and the pillars refurbished, cleaned up, and just a much better, more aesthetically pleasing look for everyone, the property owner and everyone in the neighborhood. This was another project in that same group, I think Dartmouth Street. So rickety, unsafe, just kind of crummy looking front porch there, repainted, refurbished, and just looks and feels a heck of a lot better than it did. And this is the curb and sidewalk project here. So this was further down on Main Avenue, right near Lackawanna River Conservation Association headquarters, on that stretch of Main just after Providence Square. Again, new group and just a complete refurbishment. Looks better, safer, better all the way around, we think. And then there's one more here that is, again, this is Main Avenue near Orm Street. Sidewalks cleaned up in the front of that property there, and steps replaced, old rickety wooden steps, probably gonna fall apart soon, replaced with better concrete steps that are safer, cleaner looking, just better all around. So again, the cumulative impact we have since we've started the program in 2019 in Scranton, 77 different groups of Scranton residents have completed the program over 6 project cycles. We've seen a total of 555 projects done throughout the city. Again, that's residents working together, coming to the table and organizing to do their work and improve their properties. Our total grants awarded $676,000 from us, but matched by more than $1.2 million coming from residents. And again, that comes because we award that maximum $1,000 for most projects. But it's often the case where the resident's doing work that exceeds the match. So many of these projects are not just $2,000, but some of them are $3,000, $4,000 when you look at some of the work that's completed. So our funding through, again, you and our funding partners, but funding we provide is a real catalyst for that work because we're providing kind of that spur funding to get things moving, get things going, but the residents contribute, in many cases, the match and more to make it happen. So that's what makes it exciting. It's a great partnership, and the residents put the skin in the game. So last but not least for my slides, keys to success, again, large projects to small, anything that's really an exterior improvement to the front of the home qualifies. The project is open to all residents, again, regardless of income level. We have that reduced match for folks that fall into that bracket, but any resident can participate with their property throughout the city of Scranton. Again, increased grant award for sidewalk we did cover, and the investment I think we just went through on the last slide. The residents typically match this more than 2 to 1 with their own funding. And we do allow repeat applications, and we encourage repeat applicants. We want to see that progress grow and sustain itself and spread, hopefully. And community building, we do run a program. Community Leadership Institute is a NeighborWorks America program that we sometimes work with Beautiful Blocks participants to attend and work on. Neighborhood Leaders Forum, we typically do 2 to 3 times a year. It's an event that our organization hosts with the United Neighborhood Centers. We bring in 3 to 4 different guest organizations, and oftentimes city departments participate. Chief Carroll in the police department, fire department, OECD, code enforcement. We bring neighborhood leaders, including our Beautiful Blocks participants and others we invite. It's open to the public, but we target specific folks that we've engaged with in neighborhood leader capacities to come in and hear these agencies and departments talk, learn how they can interact with those programs to make the city and their neighborhoods better. And we appreciate all the city departments that have come in and talked with us. We've been doing that since 2021, and it's been a good success. And the mobile toolkit is a trailer-based collection of tools and equipment that we make available if Beautiful Blocks groups want to organize and do sometimes work in their neighborhood, maybe a park cleanup or a vacant lot if they have permission to clean that up. We'll bring that trailer over free of cost. It's available to community groups to come out and use the tools in there, hand tools, power tools to clean up. Really, it's designed for outdoor projects, lot cleanups, park projects, tree plantings, et cetera, et cetera. We make that available. So.
Mr. Hetman, I
yes.
had just a couple more questions on the Beautiful Blocks program.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm pretty familiar with it, and I'm glad that you guys were able to take up my suggestions on the sidewalk programming. Obviously, there's a big need for that in the city, and that was used quite a bit by people who participated this year. But I know in the past, I think there have been some questions about if renters are able to participate, what stipulations usually
Yes.
placed on them?
So starting with our second program cycle, we do allow rental properties to participate. The majority of our properties are owner-occupied homes, but we do allow rental properties as long as they're residential properties to participate. So it is open certainly to rental properties.
Great. And then in terms of people finding contractors, like I think in the past that information has been provided to, like what contractor they have working on it. But if someone's not able to find a contractor, I'm sure you suggest people who could possibly help with the work, or how does that?
Yes, that's a great point. So most participants do have their own contractors. In many cases, contractors they've personally worked with in the past at their property or through another means. But for folks that are looking for a contractor, we do help refer them to contractors who have done work in the program in a reputable fashion in the past. And in many cases also, even before they ask us, other members of their group will sometimes help them to find a contractor, especially with the sidewalks, because it was a case last year where a lot of people did sidewalks. One contractor comes and the neighbor says, hey, I've got somebody lined up, can you get an estimate to this person and that person? And the neighbors also really help each other in that regard. So there's several mechanisms. And we work at NeighborWorks with code enforcement to make sure that any contractor listed on an application into the program in the city of Scranton is licensed if the city requires a license for that category of work. So Robin's been a huge help down in that office working with me the last several years to try to ensure compliance to the best of our abilities to make sure all contractors that require a license have one, and that all work falls into that category.
Okay, excellent. So then if someone is using a contractor, and because people are working together on the same block or around the same neighborhood, they could kind of team up and have that contractor working on multiple properties and use the same person, coordinate that way.
That is correct. We do encourage that if it's a good fit for the residents.
So just for clarity's sake, so say what if you have a very handy guy or owner of his property, does he have the ability, you know, to do it himself without getting a contractor?
Yes, sir.
Or a handy woman.
Or a handy woman or
Absolutely. Handy,
whatever, whoever wants to pick up the hammer.
There's lots of handy residents in the city of Scranton. We do allow residents to complete work on their own properties. In that case, however, the only thing that we allow the resident to submit for their reimbursement are the materials that they purchase for their work. So we do not allow residents to submit their own labor costs to us. We just base their grant amount off of the materials that were purchased to complete the project. Yeah, I'd say off the top of my head, it's probably about a 60-40 split in terms of about 60% or more maybe using a contractor, and about 40% of residents do the work themselves. But there's lots of handy city residents, believe me.
Now back to the renter piece. If you're a renter, you'd have to get permission from the landlord of the residency, correct?
That's correct, sir. Yes.
So you would be more working with the landlord rather than the individual that's renting from the landlord?
Most rental properties, and again, sir, we do have it's a small percentage of of the properties in the program. It's a small percentage that are rental properties. Most of the properties that are, it's the landlord that contacts us and actually enters the property and does the work. So in most cases, it is the landlord coming to us. The handful of properties where a tenant has done work, it tends to be a case where the landlord is also in the group with their own home. The landlord often, may live in a home at the corner, let's say, and they own the house next door, and then the tenant enters the house next door, kind of in conjunction and with the permission of the landlord. So.
Thank you. For the people at home as well, could you just, and I know we've gone through this several times, everybody in the room knows the program, but could you just give for the people at home how many people you need in a group, how many neighbors you need to get together?
Sure.
So they know how to organize their own group if they'd like to get something like this started?
Yes, sir. So a minimum of 5 residential properties within a relatively close area, we like to say within 1 to 2 city blocks of each other, is what's required to apply to the program. The maximum number of properties would be 20 properties. It just gets too unwieldy beyond that amount. So you need to, if you're interested, you would need to have at least 4 other neighbors within, again, about a 1 to 2 block area, but we do allow some flexibility in that as long as the properties are within the general neighborhood, we like to say.
And then what's the best way for them to contact you?
So we'll have that information here, but our number, 570-558-2490, is our office number. And then nwnepa.org is our website. The application is right on there. And we also have all the normal social media channels that are out there, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those good things. And we're open for questions. Any resident that contacts us, we look forward to talking with them and explaining the program. And
How far are you along with the ARPA facade projects?
so we'll cover that shortly here, Councilman.
Okay,
I don't want to steal too much of Todd's thunder. But we've done.
I thought that stuff was coming up, but it
Yep.
seemed like you were going to wrap it up. So
We've got some good stuff to talk still.
Okay.
We've done a great number of projects, but I'll let Todd handle that. But we've done some really good work in West Scranton and North Scranton, and we're on the verge of closing it out. So we'll defer here. If I can, then I'll transition to Todd Pousley, our Director of Community Development, and he'll handle the next part.
Yeah, thanks, Gerard. I know we're running a little short on time, so I'll try to breeze through some of this. We've been focusing a lot of our community development work in West Scranton. It's hard to believe, but we're 5 years into our 10-year neighborhood plan for West Side. So I'll cover just a few of the highlights, things that we've been working on this past year. For one, we cleaned up 12 vacant lots, primarily through a partnership with the Land Bank. We hosted an AmeriCorps and CCC team that helped us do some of that work. There's a whole slate of events that we now sponsor in West Scranton, including a spring extravaganza, egg hunt. We have a summer concert series. We have a fall festival, and for the second year, a tree lighting. All of these take place in city parks, Allen Park, Cloverfield, in West Scranton. Speaking of Cloverfield, we're currently working with the city on some plans for redeveloping that park. Most of you are probably familiar with it. Pretty large park, kind of a blank slate. Really excited about some of the opportunities there. We do have an LSA grant that we had secured for $100,000 to do the planning work, which is where we're at right now, and we've got a couple of grant applications in partnership with the city to actually do the construction later on. Another item to note, the West Scranton Youth Center opened up this past year, and although we can't claim credit for the work that's been done there to open that up, that's primarily the West Scranton Wrestling Alumni Association that's done that work. We were happy to provide some funding for the project, and we also acted as a fiscal sponsor for some other grant funding that they obtained to do that work. And then finally, our organization acquired a building at 115 North Main Avenue in West Scranton. The one you see pictured here, that has been vacant for quite some time, not in the best shape. We are looking forward to redeveloping that property. We're still figuring out exactly how we're going to use it, but what we do know is we want to dedicate some of that space to our team. So we'll have an office there in addition to the office that we have on Smith Street and West Side. There will likely be some leasable tenant space in there as well for a small business tenant. Scranton City Pride, we're excited to partner every year with Scranton Tomorrow and United Neighborhood Centers on this citywide cleanup and beautification event. This year we did 57 projects across the city. I see almost 4,200 participants, some of the results of that. And for the second year, we've done what we call the Garbage Olympics, which is just a fun way to get folks out and in a friendly competition to pick up litter around their neighborhoods. Facade grants. So we are kind of wrapping up our work on the ARPA funding that we had for facade grants. So we did receive a little over $100,000 in ARPA funding for facade grants. We actually contributed some other funding that NeighborWorks had secured. And the numbers you see up here are kind of the totals so far. So we've served 17 businesses just in West Scranton and North Scranton. And we've got 3 more that have been approved and are underway. That will probably wrap up. We'll definitely wrap up the ARPA funding that we have. We still have a little bit of additional funding that NeighborWorks had raised, so we're still taking applications from other businesses, specifically in West Side. And these numbers, again, are just kind of West Scranton and North Scranton, the ones that our organization was responsible for.
I know you mentioned how much funding, but could you repeat that again? I didn't catch them.
Yeah, it was a little over $100,000 in ARPA funding that went directly to NeighborWorks. That doesn't include additional facade grant funding that went to Scranton Tomorrow or United Neighborhood Centers for some other areas of the city.
And then 17 are completed?
17 total projects, yep, that have been completed.
Okay.
Okay, so just to switch gears a little bit, wanted to talk a little bit about the successes that we've had partnering with the city on the first-time homebuyer program. You can see here on this slide the progression of the number of homeowners that have been created through these programs. So the funding that you see there is funds that we have received from the city. So I wanted to just highlight the last 2 years, most recent years. In 2023, we had 42 closings, and that was as a result of funding that we had received from the city through home funds and through ARPA. So $288,500 in home funds and $332,500 in ARPA funding. And then in 2024, there were 27 closings for $227,000 in home funds and $159,500 in ARPA funding. I will note that for the home funds, the ARPA funds are expended, fully expended. The ARPA funding, or excuse me, the home funds, the annual disbursement that we had in 2024 was expended by September. So we have had good success getting these dollars out. That program is based on a percentage of purchase price. You can see it's an interesting trend to look over the last several years that we have partnered with the city. If you were to do an average of the dollars that are provided per home buyer in these programs, we've gone from roughly about $11,000, $12,000 per home buyer up to closer to $15,000, $16,000 per home buyer. I think it's a good indication of how housing prices have continued to grow in the area. And positive note, we've been able to continue to find home buyers and home homes that are for sale. And this program has had tremendous success. We are currently in the process of applying for the next round of home funding. And so we have submitted our application and are optimistic that that will be something that we can continue going forward with, because it does serve tremendous benefit to residents in the community. For those maybe unfamiliar with some of the added features of that partnership, home buyers are required to go through our home buyer education program as participants in that program, and have to go through the normal qualification process to be a qualified buyer. So they come through our program, they participate in several hours of home buyer education. We feel very strongly that part of the foundation of home ownership is being a good consumer and understanding what that investment means. For those of us who are homeowners, for most of us, it's the largest investment we'll make in our entire lives. And you want to ensure that when you're investing in that type of an asset, that you truly understand the full breadth of responsibility that comes with that. And that's a big part of what home buyer education is about, and the one-on-one counseling that folks can do through our organization free of charge to really understand their financial capabilities and prepare them for a pathway that sets them up for home ownership. So this is a tremendously successful program, and we're really looking forward to continue that going forward.
Can you explain the home funds?
Sure. So the home funds that come through to NeighborWorks do have some income restrictions in terms of how those funds are dispersed. So the first-time homebuyer program, those funds are made available to individuals that are at or below 80% of the area median income. There are some requirements for individuals who receive down payment and closing cost assistance through home funds, that they partner in continue ownership in the home for a minimum number of years. In the program, depending on the program stipulation, it's usually 5 to 10 years that they're required to maintain ownership in the home. That ensures that we're not getting into situations where folks are, flipping homes and that type of thing. It's really about kind of that ongoing partnership of becoming a homeowner and a member of the community on an ongoing basis. So that's kind of how, and along with that, there is an agreement as part of those funds that individuals are committed to going through the home buyer education process.
Yeah. And now where do those funds originate from?
My understanding is those originate through federal funding that comes to the state that then is dispersed to the city.
Okay, thank you.
That's my understanding.
And that concludes our formal presentation. Council will be happy to take any questions beyond what was covered. So thank you for the opportunity to come in and share our good work.
Thank you. Any more?
I just have one quick one. You guys have some great programs, do great work. The only thing that's ever brought to me every year, and a negative, and it shouldn't be a negative, is people miss the deadline. For some reason, they're scrambling, or they say, Mark, when's the deadline? I know you have it out there, but I don't know if you hear the same, that I hear, and is there a plan to maybe get it more visible out there that, there is a deadline, and there's a process, and when the deadline's over, that's it, because I hear it every year.
We do try with beautiful blocks, Councilman, to be as accommodating as we can. That's why particularly we try to give that long window from here the first week in February until the last week of March. If someone does come in right at the end, we do try to help them as much as we can to accommodate them if there's certainly a need to do that. In terms of the reasons how we do that and promote it, we've got a range of promotional avenues through social media with Facebook. We do paid Facebook placements. We do, again, press releases still work. The newspaper still picks up our stories, and whatever other way we can get the word out, we try to spread it as best we can. But we tend to find the best uses, though, the best way to spread the word is neighbor to neighbor. Typically our best promotion are folks who have done the program and they tell their neighbors, or they tell friends or relatives or coworkers in other parts of the city, and they're the ones that pick it up. So we encourage folks who do the program to tell anyone else they know in the city to consider applying. So we do our best, and we try to accommodate folks as best we can at the deadline. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for being here and informing us what NeighborWorks does for our city.
Thank
you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
We'll be back in a few minutes as soon as we get these cleaned up. Thank you.